Hey guys, welcome into the Bear With Us podcast. I'm Jack. He is Frank. Frankie, we didn't do an instant reaction pod for the Bears game last night because we're recording our podcast the very next day, and we thought that'd be kind of stupid to stay up until 11:30 at night on a Monday recording a podcast. So we're going to talk about it anyway. So let's do that right now because the Bears go into New England, Frank, of all places. And the offense finally wakes up and they drop 33 points on the New England Patriots. I mean, you can't tell me there's literally anyone who thought that that would happen. Maybe some people thought the Bears would win. You and I definitely didn't. But there's no way anybody thought the Bears would just roll into New England and absolutely just dominate like that.
No, not at all. I mean, especially when you look at the way New England's built. This game to me had like 7-6 written all over it. Both teams love to run the football. Both teams are trying to, win the clock game. They're trying to have more time of possession. And I mean, if I'm hard pressed to find another coach in those situations that is going to beat Bill Belichick. That was my mindset going into this game, was like, if it's going to come down to that, I'm taking Bill over everyone in the league in an ugly game like that, because he's going to make the better decisions. He's going to be the better coach, but it didn't really call for that. My general takeaway, Jack, before we get into specifics, it's really in the form of a question to you, because I think the question itself is going to tell you how well, how excited and how happy that I was about it. How fucking good does it feel to see the Chicago Bears look prepared after a longer break? How many times did we see in the Matt Nagy era, coming off a bye week, coming off a 10-day break, and we're just like, we look like the most uncoordinated team in the fucking league. To see them go out there on a long break and actually look like the game plan for their opponent, when is the last time we saw that?
Yeah, that's actually a very, very good point. I didn't really think about that. I mean, because I just the way that this team has been operating week in and week out in terms of game plans to start the game, not always the best, but they do eventually sort of make those changes necessary at halftime. And so it really wasn't anything, I didn't really think too much about it, but you make an excellent point. That was one of Matt Nagy's biggest flaws, was like, and fuck, man, even John Fox, Mark Trot, like, goes back a while now, where it's like they would have these bye weeks where they'd be like, all right, like, if you remember, must have been 2018, Mitch Trubisky's 6-touchdown game, right? And you and I were like, all right, here we fucking go. We got this figured out. Mitch is the guy. Looks good. They go into the bye week. You're like, I kind of wish that hadn't happened. Like, carry that momentum. And then the next week they come back, and it's the same old Bears offense. But, like, this team did have a little more time to prepare, and they looked ready to fucking go. That's an excellent point. Definitely feels good to see a Bears team actually, be prepared.
I know. And it was on both sides of the ball. I mean, do we want to start offense or defense? Because both coordinators, as the weeks go on, man, are proving to be really fucking good at their jobs, especially given the talent on both sides of the ball. I mean, I guess we can start offensively, because I was telling you just before we started the episode, like, the reason why I thought the Patriots were going to win was because Bill Belichick historically has just confused young quarterbacks. That's not an indictment on, what I thought about Justin Fields or what you think about any young quarterback going into New England. That's just what Bill B does. And the one thing that we know Bill B struggles with is the athletic quarterbacks. Cam Newton has had big games against him. Kyler Murray has good games against. He doesn't. I don't think he likes to spy quarterbacks. I just don't think that's like in his DNA for whatever reason. And we haven't seen Luke Getsy really draw runs for Justin Fields. So to me, I'm like, man, you're making this kid stay in the pocket. You're moving it every now and then, which is good, but you're putting him against a Bill B defense and not letting him use his legs. That's a recipe for disaster. That was my mindset going in. But again, going back to these coordinators, and we'll start with Luke Getsy, that was a fucking phenomenal game plan. I mean, it's almost the same question. What is the last game that you can remember? And it's probably the Mitch 6-touchdown game, but it's so hard to say because that Tampa defense was historically bad that year. Like, against a solid team, that we look that competent on offense. I mean, for me, it's like year one Trestman, when it looked like, oh man, maybe we did make the right hire, at least offensively. Because that was like That was amazing. Luke Getsy, I mean, he did nothing wrong. I had no complaints about any of his play calls or decisions that were made from Eberflus or Luke Getsy offensively.
There were some just beautiful play designs. You think about that touchdown the Justin Fields ran in for, where they do the fake jet sweep and they had everyone blocking to the right, but then Justin, like Getsy trusted Justin on his own basically, with Braxton Jones leading the way, who, shout out to him. I thought he played so very, very well. Larry Borum, not so much at right tackle. Matthew Judon, man, that guy is an absolute stud. Sam Mustipher, he can go now. Cut him. Just that find another center. They're
holy shit.
There can't be any worse center available on the free agent market right now. You can't. You'd be hard pressed to find one who's worse than that dude. I mean,
Jack,
bad.
Have you ever played like Madden Online, where it's like the servers are about to disconnect? And it's like the players like are running around mindlessly, and the game's about to be. That's what Sam Mustipher did on a handful of those plays. Like, he's just like running around, like, look, it's like, dude, what in the fuck are you doing right now? Like, I can take a player being lost or the wrong blocking assignment, but they're at least trying to block someone, or like they're trying to get to the second level too early, whatever. Those are mental mistakes that you can at least like justify. Like, at least he was trying to make a play. What the fuck was Mustipher doing on some of these plays? Like, it's almost like, do you remember like in the old movies of the 90s, they'd have those play where like the lineman would like go down on the floor and start barking to like distract him? That's what the fuck Mustipher does out there. He just gets on the floor and barks.
They just tell him to do something. Hey, get out there, snap the ball, and then run around. We'll figure it out. But no, I mean, obviously shout out to Khalil Herbert as well. I know David Montgomery had his fair share of very good runs, but I mean, Khalil Herbert looks like an absolute stud, just running over people left and, I mean, Peyton Manning and Eli Manning talking about him left and right. It was so funny to me, Frank. I watched the Manning cast yesterday, and there was just something very funny to me about the fact, like, they didn't know a single player's name on the Bears outside of Justin Fields. Like, on the offense, I should say. They're like, I like this guy. Like, yeah, me too. Wide receivers, I thought played pretty well. It's nice seeing N'Keal Harry get a nice solid catch. Equanimity is St. Brown. Get the guy the ball more often. One thing about him, though, Frank, he does not like
you texted me that,
every single play, I don't know how many I've counted where he's like running up against a corner or safety, and then he takes a couple of yards less just to step out of bounds. I'm like, damn, man, like, you're big, like, you're probably taller than a lot of these guys. Just run through them. No, he's not about that. He's got a paycheck to worry about. But I liked what I saw. They didn't need to do much. I mean, Justin Fields completed 13 passes. That was about it. But he didn't really need to do a whole lot with the run game working like that. And then obviously Justin Fields proving what a dual threat weapon he truly can be. Obviously, with those types of quarterbacks, you wonder how serviceable are they going to be moving forward? How durable can he be? I mean, that throw to Khalil Herbert that he made for the touchdown, I mean, granted, he wasn't running on that play, but he got absolutely fucking leveled on that play. So every time he pops back up, you're like, okay, all right.
But it's honestly, it's come to a point for me, Jack, that I hope, and it seems like Luke Getsy is starting to understand this, because he's scheming to cover up for the offensive line, and more as the games go on. He is safer outside of the pocket and running than he is in the pocket. Like, think of all the runs that he made. What big hit did he take? Even the late hit that should have been called, it was just a push on the shoulder. He was like 3 steps out of bounds. I mean, that's standard football stuff.
Tom Brady gets that guy ejected on a call like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But the biggest hits he had were in the pocket.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think Getsy is recognizing that, though. And I think that game showed everybody that you can run him and be safe. You have to sort of put some faith in defensive players that aren't just going to fucking clobber him while he's sliding. Like, you have to have some sort of faith in the NFL that's getting taken care of, because it's been a while since Fields has been hit while he's been sliding. Yeah. And if that was their worry, I think they have to stop worrying about that. But Yeah, I mean, that was the perfect game plan from Getsy, and I think he's starting to have more and more faith in Justin Fields, and I think I don't even know if it's faith. I think he's understanding what Justin's really good at and certain things that he's not, and he's really game planning for that. But it's not to say he's completely Xing out the things that he isn't great at yet. He's slowly incorporating that in so he gets those reps. I mean, we've seen, him miss a few throws downfield. We've seen him, I think one was to Mooney where he didn't give him a chance in the end zone. But it's not deterring Luke Getsy, which is phenomenal to me. He's starting to show that trust of, look, you missed the throw, go get him again. Here's another throw. Here's another really good throw to Cole Kmet 2 plays later. Showing that we have faith in you. I loved it. Luke Getsy is becoming everything that we thought he would be.
Yeah, you made a really good point just now, and it's something I was going to touch on as well. Is a lot of people obviously at the beginning of the year were hard on Luke Getsy because sometimes a lot of those early games offense didn't look quite right, but he was still learning what his players were about. He was learning what Justin's strengths were, what the offensive line was good at, who's good at what, all of that. And I feel like week 7 is a good. I mean, it's almost halfway through his first season, and it feels like he kind of has a good idea of because, I mean, Frank, yeah, they scored 7 points on Thursday Night Football. It's always tough to really take away since it's such a short week preparation-wise. It's not like they weren't moving the ball. Like, the offense at times was looking good. They just weren't able to punch it in. That was not a problem last night.
Well, I think, but again, the things that we're looking for out of everyone, we've talked about this even with Justin Fields, and I think we, in so many words have said it about Luke Getsy as well. What was our only complaint in that 7-point or the 12-7 loss to the Commanders? It was that we couldn't score. Well, okay, Justin Fields missed the throw to a tight end. He also made a bad pick because his arm angle was way too low. But if we had a complaint about Getsy, it was run him inside the 5. He's one of the best running quarterbacks in the league. He learned from that. He did exactly that this game. Like, right. He's also learning. He's also starting to take note of what is and isn't working, and he's learning from that. It's something we haven't seen from an offense. It's something that they talked about in the offseason and in training camp that we were encouraged by. We didn't take their word. We're just like, we have to see it, but we're encouraged that you're at least saying it, that they're not going to be stubborn. They are going to sort of conform is a bad word, but I can't think of anything else. Like, conform to their players. They're going to see what they're good at and start to form an offense around it. And they're doing that. It's been great. It's been great to see this whole year that they're starting to make these adjustments, and it's really paying off.
Yeah. There is a lot of adjustments being made. Again, I think it's identifying wide receivers because, I mean, things have just been so up and down. Justin, I think while we touched on a lot of the positives, I think, a couple negatives should be mentioned. He missed an easy throw, in my opinion, to Darnell Mooney that he should have hit for a touchdown. Like, there's just that it's unacceptable. And I think, just settling for too many field goals is still, I mean, granted, they scored 33 points. Can't really be that upset. But the defense had a lot to do with that, too. Finally getting some big takeaways. Robert Quinn, again, he's not who he was last year, obviously. But I thought he made a couple of good plays last night. Kyler Gordon, just great concentration on the interception that he had where he tips it with one hand and then sort of just brings it in. Looked very easy for him, which was great.
This is the fourth straight week, Jack.
Yeah.
He's looking good.
Roquan Smith obviously had a very, very good night. And then, hopefully Jaquan Brisker's feeling a little bit better today, getting some height. Man, how's that not a flag? If tripping is a flag, Frank, how is getting kicked in the balls not a flag? I mean, Mac Jones
should have been spiking. I mean, I don't know what, it's a personal foul of some sort, but I've seen that called before when people slide with their cleats up.
I mean, he that's what he was doing, right? That's what he was going for. Like, it's not like his leg was pretty well up in the air. It wasn't like he was just trying to slide like a baseball slide. Like, he was sliding with his leg up, looking to do some damage. So I was surprised that didn't get called. But overall, I mean, defense held him to 14 points, no second half points. I think it was 2. Frank, it was really nice to see Bailey Zappi obviously comes in, gets the touchdown. You're like, oh boy, here we go. Here comes New England. Momentum is shifted here. But the Bears responded really well and didn't give up any more points like that. That was really nice to see. I think it goes to kind of what you were talking about at the beginning, where you're like, how nice is it to see a Bears team so prepared and well coached, out of a break. And I think you have to talk about that on a defense too. Like, it's a defense that doesn't really get shaken a lot. Even when the other offense makes a lot of good plays, they don't really give in to that. We really haven't seen this defense get absolutely shredded, other than maybe that Packers game where it's just like, oh man, come on, like give me something here. But Alan Williams has been on a hot streak. This whole coaching staff, Matt Eberflus just went in to New England as a rookie head coach with one of the worst looked at offenses in the league and won 33-14. This is a damn well good coach team. And what? They had like two penalties overall? When was the last time we saw that for the Bears?
I know. I mean, that was the one thing we took notice for even in the preseason, and that's remained throughout the year, even in bad losses. They are a very disciplined team, and it has been awesome to see. I mean, because to me, that just means that this team is buying in to Eberflus's message, and it's something that he's actually teaching, and the whole coaching staff is sort of exuding that, is like, we're going to be disciplined. If we're going to lose, it's not because we're shooting ourselves in the foot, at least penalty-wise. We've made mistakes execution-wise, which needs to be cleaned up. But like, we have, I mean, what game have we like lost because of a horrible mistake by a player? I mean, there's been flags that have been thrown, but they were questionable. Think about the 40-yard run or whatever by Justin Fields that got called back on that touchdown a few weeks ago. That was a questionable call. I don't think many people thought that was a block in the back. I see why it was called in real time, and the rule is you can't go back and change it. But when you watch the replay, that wasn't it. So it's like, this team is very disciplined, and we sort of talked about the way we want to measure Justin Fields, and it's not really going to be statistically because there's not much around him. I think the same has to be said about Eberflus. It can't really be just wins and losses. Look at the other small things that this team is forming. That's a reflection of Eberflus as a coach, and we're seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that they cut Amir Smith-Marset and then have their best offensive output all season. Like, I mean, I don't think there's that's just a random fact, Frank. But no, I mean, you got to give this team an A. Frank, I would give them an A+, but there's one thing I told you that I wanted to talk about regarding Matt Eberflus. And then, we can move on to our picks for the week, and then we'll get into to Bears heading into Dallas, which I feel like is always an entertaining game. And I feel like the Bears have had the Cowboys number for the last few times they've played, especially in Arlington. But Frank, I got to be honest with you. I was not extreme. That's not the right word. I was frustrated with Matt Eberflus at the end of the game last night. How are you gonna?
I knew you were going there.
How are you gonna kneel that down? Like, you just got clowned on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah.
By everyone around the league. It's been talked about all season how much your offense stinks and how bad it is, and Justin Fields isn't the guy. And give a chance to drop a 40 on New England on the road. Like, I don't like that. I didn't like it. I understand the sportsmanship shit, and that's fine. But literally against any other team, I'd find that acceptable, except maybe the Packers.
Yeah.
It's New England, man. Fuck New England. Push it. Get that last touchdown. Do it.
The mindset itself, I'm not upset at. I don't know if he answered any questions in the press as to why he didn't decide to go for it. But just sort of thinking of other reasons, and this isn't justifying, because again, I would have probably gone for it. But if his mindset is, look, the game is out of place, how stupid would I look if I get one of my players hurt here when the game is already sewed up? Like, what if you run a quarterback sneak and Justin Fields gets hurt, he's out for the rest of the year, and you're up 33-4? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like something like that had to have been at play in that scenario. That said, that's what I was just going to say. That said, you don't have to make a high stakes player involved here. Let Treston Ebner run again for a yard. Just like you said, throw a back shoulder fade to N'Keal Harry or EQ or whatever. I get what you're saying. But I didn't see him answer to that. I wasn't exactly upset about it, but I would have liked to see him go for it for sure. That would have been awesome.
Cowardly.
Can I just say
Step on their necks, Frank. Step on their necks.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it
because we've seen kind of the Bears do this and this season specifically. I'm not talking about past seasons. I'm talking about this specific coaching staff. They do seem to get a little conservative if they have, somewhat of a lead or it's 4th and 5 and instead of, maybe going for it, they punt, right? Or they or they try a field goal, which by the way, Cairo Santos,
he's been phenomenal.
It is so nice to not have to worry about our kicker when he comes out and tries to make a field goal, Frank. It's just nice to appreciate that. But I don't know. I just hope that in those higher stakes situations, I just think it was a good opportunity to try something that maybe you don't get to do in an end of game situation. I don't know. It's still a young team, man.
No, it's completely fair. And I think before we get over to the picks, the one thing, because it's just the way my mind works, and sometimes it's for the good and sometimes it's for the bad. It's something I've spoken about in therapy before, so it's hard to shed because it's good sometimes. But this game, and I didn't want to start this way because it comes across probably more negative than it should, but it sort of annoys me on a couple of levels. Because one, you think about how good Luke Getsy was in running Justin Fields and in execution and everything. It makes me think one or two better play calls in that Giants game and in that Washington game, and we're talking about potential playoffs. We're shifting the way we think about this team. The counter to that is just like you said earlier, he's still getting to know things, so I understand it, but it's just the way my mind works sometimes. The second thing is win or loss, forget outcome. I wanted this offense to look this way, and forget even the 33 points. It's not even about that either. Just conceptually getting out, running and doing and letting, because now what the hope is we can move forward and say, who are the building blocks of this team? Because the first 5 weeks, how the fuck could you even, everything just seemed blah. And again, we had the excuses for it. It's not a talented team. It's not this, but they're starting to figure things out. So now moving forward, we're saying, is Tevin Jenkins a really good right guard? Is Larry Borum really bad? Is, Braxton Jones your left tackle? And then even defensively, is Justin Jones someone you want to give a 4-year deal, 3-4 years? Is he the Akeem Hicks of this era of Bears football that we took a chance on and he wound up being really good? And we set I think we're starting to trend towards that position, which makes me really optimistic. But then it's the flip end is it makes me sort of bitter of man, if we were just playing this way 3-4 weeks ago, we're talking about a totally, even if it's not winning, you're talking about even evaluating at a higher level.
Right.
Because now you're even starting to see it in the positive of Justin may not throw for 4,000 yards this year. But again, and we were saying this before things looked this good this week against the Patriots. If you don't see this kid's fucking talent jumping off the screen, you have to watch a different team. There's no way you look at what he just did against the Patriots and say, yeah, I want fucking Bryce Young or Nevada State A&T's quarterback, whoever the fuck these bums are coming in the 23 draft. You got to be kidding me. This kid is so talented, man. And again, he missed some throws, and it is what it is. But the all-time greats miss some throws every now and then. I'm not harping on that. He has so much talent, dude. We have to continue to give him time and let him develop. And hopefully, I don't want – this is going to sound weird. I don't want Getsy to have this great of games consistently moving forward because someone's going to poach his ass and he's going to be a head coach next year if he can continue to do this until week 17. But let him grow with the system. Let him grow with this. So it's, there's sort of layers to the way I was feeling after the game. I was ultimately happy, but it's dude, had we played this way starting in week 3 instead of week 7, man, we'd have a totally different outlook, I think.
Yeah, and there's a reason that they're 3-4, right? The team just wasn't playing that well in those games. But Frank, you got to remember there's an extra playoff spot this year, and the NFC really doesn't look all that good. The NFC East is real damn good. The NFC South, I don't think has a team with a winning record or literally anyone at 500. I think they're all below 500 right now. The NFC West really isn't what we thought it would be either. The NFC North, outside of the Vikings, like the Bears and the Packers have the same record right now. So I'm not going to say the playoffs are the goal. I just want to continue to see growth in the offense. And Frank, I think what's nice is that Luke Getsy did a lot of the things that we asked of him in the offseason, right? He's moving the pocket. He's doing everything we were begging Matt Nagy to do with Justin Fields at quarterback. And now it's really starting to happen, which is great. And I think that this is kind of what the offense will be moving forward throughout the rest of the year. And maybe Justin Fields' career, it just depends on how he's going to grow as a pocket passer. But I think two things are going to need to happen for that to be realistic.
Yeah.
Getting an offensive line upgrade, left guard, center probably. Although Lucas Patrick did look pretty solid when he was healthy playing. Right tackle is probably an issue. And then obviously wide receiver. So, but if Justin Fields can continue to be a magician where he fumbles the ball, you're like, oh God, he comes right back and gets a huge gain, or he makes a huge play with his legs, takes a sack, and you're like, you can't do that because now you're knocked out of field goal range.
Yeah.
And then he comes right back and makes it a play happen where he gets the first down. It's just like watching Peyton Manning and Eli Manning both watching Justin Fields and being like awestruck was just super cool. Like, I'm so glad that I watched that they decided to do this game. I'm glad they did, because you're right, Frank. Like, you and I have been talking about this talent for Justin in terms of just an overall threat. He makes things happen. He's a difference maker right now. And I'm very excited to see his continued growth. How this plays the rest of the year, we don't know, but it's nice that you're right. It's nice that we're finally getting some answers and some of those questions we've been asking, for sure.
Agreed. And that was the one point that I failed to mention earlier. That's the one thing, the one area I think is probably the weakest for Justin Fields right now. We're seeing that internal clock speed up, which is phenomenal. We're seeing his pocket presence get better, which is great. He's got to know when to give up on plays.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably his weakest point. Is he just has to know when to just throw the ball away. I love that it's a fine balance though, because I love the way he can extend plays and make plays with his legs and his arm, but you still have to know when it's just throw it away. Don't take the sack, don't take the hit, throw it away, live for the next down. But yeah, no, I agree with everything that you said. And I think, Jack, we're about a week or two away of playing like this, from having that segment that, I don't know if you talk about it on air just yet, but of like ranking what are the positions of need going in the next year, whether it's draft or free agency, because now we get to really evaluate. That was a really good game overall, and Larry Borum looked bad. So that's telling. You know what I mean? Like when you're able to have success and do things and sort of see what you want in an offense and even a defense, you see who's sort of not fitting that mold, who isn't being a part of that success, if you will. So it's like, I'm excited to have that conversation now versus like 3 weeks ago when we first brought it up, like whether it was a text, it's like, we can damn near upgrade everything at this point outside of maybe Justin. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? But not now. We're starting to see people really fit what they want to do.
Right. Yeah. I like I said, I think this is just a good opportunity to start learning more about your team, and just overall, very impressed with that win. Very happy that, especially against New England. And I don't personally care. I didn't really think it mattered all that much. However, because they did win, I can say it now. I'm glad that Bill Belichick didn't pass George Halas in terms of overall wins against the Bears. I thought that was, I'm glad that he'll have to wait a week, and it wasn't against the Bears. So good for them. Frank, let's get into our Week 8 picks here, and then we'll talk, obviously, save Chicago and Dallas for last. Thursday night football, Baltimore at Tampa Bay. Last week's Thursday night game was by far the best we'd seen, just point-wise. It was fun and exciting. I don't know what to make of either of these teams right now, Frank. Lamar Jackson had an incredible start to the season, but he has been bad. He has been bad the last couple of games. Actually, the last 4 games or so since he went into or they played the Bills. He just hasn't looked very good. I'm going to go with Tampa Bay, and I know they just only scored 3 points against the Carolina Panthers. Didn't see that one coming. But they got to get this one. They have
Yeah.
to get this one. This is do or die for Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, it feels very pick'em though, because both teams haven't looked great the last few weeks. I'm gonna go Tampa as well. You got to think they're gonna turn it around eventually, right?
At some point, because Brady has not looked very good either. You know, he's only got one pick though this year.
I did not know that. No.
Isn't that's pretty crazy? But he's only got like 8 touchdowns, which I think for him at this point is like probably his lowest since he's rookie season or something.
Yeah, probably. I mean, to be fair, I mean, he probably had 2 or 3 that were dropped last week. I mean,
that seems
he
to
didn't
be
have
his career overall, honestly.
Yeah.
Just drop picks left and right. Sunday morning, your London game of the week, Denver at Jacksonville. I am so glad I will not be awake watching this game because, goddamn, this is just going to be an ugly game, I feel like. I'm going Jacksonville, though. I don't know if Russ will play. I don't really think it matters if he does or not. But Trevor Lawrence, he's been playing really well. I mean, he's running the football. You know, he's getting it into the end zone one way or another. They obviously are completely on board with Travis Etienne now, trading James Robinson to the Jets. I'm going Jacksonville.
I'm going Jacksonville as well. Again, whether Russ plays or not, I don't anticipate me picking Denver. He's been bad, no doubt about it. The backup quarterback didn't look any better. It feels more of a overall thing though as well. Like we may be talking about Nathaniel Hackett needing a job after this year. He is not done very well. No,
he's not.
So I just think they're a bad overall team. And then obviously Russ is in decline or he's bad, whatever you want to word it as. So yeah, I'm going Jacksonville.
But he's got that Wolverine blood, Frank. Speaking of Wolverines, Miami at Detroit. Detroit, Michigan Wolverines. Okay. Frank, I'm going Miami. Detroit is exactly who I thought they were. I've been telling everyone else all offseason that everyone's buying in because of the hard knock shit. This team just is not very good. They're just not very good. And I know they're hurt. They have a lot of missing weapons, I know, but Tua was back, and I thought he played pretty well, honestly, all things considered. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I mean, I can dream the Bears will have wide receiver duo like that someday in the future. But for now, it's just nothing more than a pipe dream.
I know I mean, Tyreek. Defenses just have so much to worry about with him. It's insane. Yeah, I'm going Dolphins. Tua is still in that weird place for me though. He had a good first quarter. And then he just has these spurts where he looks so ordinary. And I mean, he had like 2 or 3 picks that were dropped as well. Like that's a total, I don't know. He's just a weird quarterback. But I mean, the Lions aren't good. Their defense is, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a 2 or 3 score win for the Dolphins.
Yeah, he did have I think 4 drop picks or something like that.
It was
insane.
Nuts.
And then we got Carolina at Atlanta. Carolina with a very, very surprising win, like I mentioned. PJ Walker looking like an absolute stud. I just one of the, Frank, I traded for Donta Foreman in the offseason. I think I gave up like a second or something like that because I was like, he was really good in Tennessee when Derrick Henry was hurt. I was like, this guy could be something, and they just didn't use him. So, I cut him, whatever. And then he obviously comes back and has an absolute monster game, and it's just like, damn, like, so weird they couldn't figure out how to get him going. But with that being said, I'm going to go with Atlanta in this game. They're at home. Marcus Mariota has been playing pretty well. I just don't trust – I'm not going to trust Carolina to get back-to-back wins, right? I can't do it.
That's exactly why I'm going with Atlanta as well. It has this feel of the rebuilding team. They lost their best player to trade, and they're like, you know what? Let's hunker down, boys, and like go all out this week. And they're just not going to be able to do it again. They're not going to be able to replicate that. I'm going Atlanta.
Arizona at Minnesota. This one could be actually pretty fun, to be completely honest. Man, Kyler is just his decline is very surprising to me, Frank. I know they won last week on Thursday Night Football, but that Saints team is just not very good. Andy Dalton was Andy Dalton. I don't really know what people expected. Arizona's defense kind of took care of things, but Kyler, I mean, he just doesn't seem to know what's going on. Like, he just seems like he's running around just I don't know what he's doing, just looking for DeAndre Hopkins, which is great. That's fine. It's what Derek Carr is doing with the Raiders right now. But like, Kyler should be at a better place than this in his career, especially after getting that huge contract. I'm just not impressed with Arizona at this moment. I'm going Minnesota with the way, them coming off a bye. Kirk Cousins has looked good. I'm going Minnesota.
I'm going Minnesota as well. But I mean, to respond to the Kyler thing, there's a reason why they put that clause in his contract. I know they took it out after all the backlash, but there is a reason. And he's gone on record at press conferences like, yeah, I'm not the guy that's going to sit there and study for hours on hours. Like I know what I'm saying, whatever he said. And it's like, it shows because you look like a shorter, more athletic Russell Wilson, where you get back, if your first option isn't there, you just scramble. And I think teams are starting to game plan for that. So it's not just a scramble anymore. It's sort of a panic now, where it's like, your first option isn't there and you just panic in the pocket and get happy feet and start going all over. And you're so physically gifted that it works sometimes, but it didn't have to be that hard all the time. Like if you know what you're seeing post snap, you can go to option 3, 4, and then run, or you can feel the pressure and sort of, shift certain ways. There was someone on Twitter, I haven't seen it in a while, but it was the first like 3 or 4 weeks, who was breaking down that Kyler wasn't even seeing things pre-snap, and he wasn't telling his offensive line to adjust. He doesn't know how to pick up blitzers, like blitzing linebackers and safeties. That's like very obvious pre-snap, and he's not like audibling or calling anything out because he just doesn't know what he's seeing. And again, I think it's one of those things where he's gotten away with just being the best player at every single level that he's ever been at, just physically. That you can sort of I think you hear a lot of people in like grammar school and high school, like I never had to study because I was just super smart, and I get to college and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing because I don't even know how to study because I never had to. I feel like that's the same thing with Kyler. Like he's never had to watch tape because he's just been fucking better than everybody, but you can't get away with that at the elite level. And it's like, I feel like that's exactly what we're seeing every single week.
Yeah. And it's interesting that, Cliff Kingsbury is probably the one who's going to be on his way out because they kind of backed themselves into this corner now after signing Kyler to this massive deal. Like you obviously have to stick with him, but it's clearly not working. So now they kind of have to figure out sort of what their next step's going to be. So it's interesting. I'm assuming you're going with Minnesota.
Oh yeah, Minnesota.
Okay, just to clarify. We'll save Bears Dallas for the end. Raiders at New Orleans. I'm going Raiders. I don't really need to justify why. New Orleans sucks.
I'm going with the Raiders as well. I'm saying very brief.
Then we got Pittsburgh at Philadelphia. Kenny Pickett's going through it right now as a rookie. He's just making a lot of rookie mistakes. And it's I think they have something there though. They may have something with this offense. I mean, George Pickens hurts every time I see him make a big play, Frank, because could have been a Bear, but doesn't matter. I'm going Philadelphia. They're just too damn good. I'm
going Philadelphia as well. I mean, I'm really curious to see what Pittsburgh does after this season. I don't think they were ever planning on being a top 10 pick. It's going to really because I feel like they picked Kenny not
and
necessarily.
We're good. Yeah, we're good.
That's what I mean. And I'm not like always all for moving on from, like, my philosophy is always like, yeah, let's get through the 4 years, but I don't think anyone in that quarterback class was like special. We had the whole quarterback, in the offseason, sort of the rankings of the rookies, and gun to head, I wouldn't feel comfortable with any of those guys being my guy. I thought he was the most pro ready, and I thought he probably had one of the higher ceilings, but if they have a top 5 pick, do they trade back because they have faith in him, or do they go out and get one of these dudes who probably have a much higher ceiling than him? It's going to be really, they're going to be someone to watch. But yeah, I'm going Eagles.
New England at the Jets. I'm going to go New England. Zach Wilson has not had a lot of success when it comes to Bill Belichick, and he's just not the guy, Frank. I know Jets fans were just like, and it's a shame because obviously Breece Hall looked like everything you and I had talked about in the offseason, but It's unfortunate, obviously, with him getting the torn ACL. I just don't think this Jets team is really going to do it. I know they traded for James Robinson, but Zach Wilson just isn't the guy. He's just not the guy. I think New England can win on the running game and their defense alone.
I agree. And I don't think you can do with Zach Wilson what the Bears just did with Justin Fields. I think this is going to be a Sam Darnold versus New England game. He's going to see ghosts. He's more athletic than a Sam Darnold, but he's certainly not like a good or even great or good runner.
I mean, there's a reason Garrett Wilson said what he said about Joe Flacco throwing a catchable ball.
And part of me feels like vindicated because I think I was right about Zach Wilson. Part of me feels bad for him, though. I mean, you got your guys tweeting about you. You got, just like you said, Garrett Wilson saying, making those types of comments, like, kind of feel bad for him. But it's also not his fault. He should have never been the number 2 pick. I just don't see how the fuck he catapulted that high. Because even from a physical talent standpoint, he wasn't even close to being the most physically or the second most physically talented quarterback in that draft. That was Justin Fields. It always was. But even like sort of football IQ, I would have put Mac Jones ahead of him. And then physical talent, you're talking about Lance, Lawrence, and Fields also had more physical talent than just. So it's like I just don't see, like, they set this kid up to fail because he should have never been the number 2 pick.
I agree. And it sounds like you're going New England.
Yeah, going New England.
Tennessee at Houston. Houston's offense actually looked pretty solid. Davis Mills kind of doing some things. Dameon Pierce obviously looks really good. That being said, though, Tennessee is the class of this division after, obviously what they did to the Colts. So I'm going to go with Tennessee.
I'm going Tennessee as well. I kind of feel bad for Tennessee because they're just on that trajectory again to win like up 10, 11 games, and no one still takes them serious.
Yeah, no one cares. No one cares.
I know, but I feel bad though because they're a fun team to watch. They're good, but I just don't think anyone thinks of them as a Super Bowl contender, no matter how many regular season games that they win.
I never will.
Yeah.
The Giants at Seattle. I do not know what to make of this game, but
the Giants, it's gonna be a good one, I think.
Giants just keep on winning, man. It's pretty impressive. I am going to go with the Giants. I can't in good faith pick Seattle though. Kenneth Walker, yeah, man, he looks really fucking good right now. I'm going Giants.
Oh, here's the thing, Jack. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Geno Smith. Again, if we have to power rank these quarterbacks, he's top 10 easily. He might be top 5 power rank wise right now going into this week. He's looked really fucking good, dude. I mean, and it's not like he looks good for Geno. He looks good for a fringe starter. He looks like a really good NFL quarterback. Certainly better than Danny Dimes.
It's funny, Frank. You mentioned something I know a lot of Bears fans had a lot of anxiety and issues with when they hired Eberflus to begin with, in that, well, if Getsy does really well, then he's going to get hired away. Whoever is the Seahawks offensive coordinator should be either promoted to head coach or just someone needs to hire him to be their head coach. Because, I mean, he's making things happen with fucking Marquise Goodwin out there. It's you're right. Geno has looked, I mean, infinitely better than what I would have expected.
Agreed.
Especially with him going into the offseason in a QB battle with Drew Lock. You're like, well, how bad could Geno possibly be? So
yeah.
I'm going Giants. You're going Seattle.
I'm going Seahawks.
Okay. All right. Washington at Indianapolis. It's weird to me that this game is a 3:00 game because neither Washington nor Indy, they're both in the Eastern time zone, and neither one are very good. I think what they were hoping for schedule-wise was that Carson Wentz was going to be playing, and then they'd get the Wentz game. Matt Ryan type shit. Because on the schedule, there's really nothing else that's really that interesting. That being said, I'm going Washington. I always thought Taylor Heineke was a very good, serviceable quarterback. obviously the Colts making the big change to Sam Ellinger, regardless if Matt Ryan was going to be hurt or not. He clearly is. I would not feel good picking the Colts with a quarterback who is making his first start in an unproven offense with a bad offensive line, good skill players like Paris Campbell finally coming back to life. And it sucks that it's happening now because it feels like him and Matt Ryan were sort of developing that chemistry. And now all of a sudden it's going to be this guy who has never started before. So, and not for nothing, Washington just beat Green Bay, which was honestly really fun to see that happen. So I'm going to go Washington. I'm going Washington.
I'm going Washington as well. For me, the quarterback is probably negligible. Like you could probably say one is better than the other. I think it starts in the trenches there. I think that Washington defensive line is going to feast on Indy's offensive line. They're going to have a big day. Yeah, they're going to have a big day. Yeah.
San Francisco at the Rams. I'm going Rams, or excuse me. I'm going 49ers. I'm taking the San Francisco 49ers. George Kittle finally has come back to life. They got Christian McCaffrey. I mean, they're playing Kansas City. Like, it's not really going to be anything worth showing. I'm going 49ers.
I'm going Rams. I think they have a better overall team. I mean, Jimmy G just like is who he is, and I can't see San Fran. I can't see Kyle Shanahan drawing up or like game planning to like sort of mask who Jimmy G is against the Rams. Like I just don't. I mean, we saw it with Kansas City as well. Granted, obviously the Rams aren't as good as Kansas City, but against lesser teams, he's able to sort of mask the limitations of Jimmy G. He can't do that against teams that are good. And I don't know if the Rams are great, but I think they're good, and I think they win this game.
I just don't trust their offense, the Rams' offense right now. They need to show me something. They need to show me something. This is a good opportunity to do so. Sunday night, Green Bay at Buffalo. I'm going Buffalo. I'm not even going to explain.
Come on, there's nothing even. Yeah.
God, I hope they drop like 45 on them, Frank. I really hope this isn't one of those games that the Packers just somehow eke out and the whole relax type shit. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is out here calling out his team on the Pat McAfee show today. Alan Lazard is hurt. That offense is dead. Give me Buffalo.
But listen, I don't think this is a game they can eke out. You're going to need a vintage Aaron Rodgers shootout type of win. The Bills are not coming to play. You talk about when we were talking about what we wanted to see with the Bears to fucking punch it down their throat and get a 40 ball. That's the way the Bills play. They're up 3 scores, still throwing the ball. They're not there to bleed the clock. They're there to beat the shit out of you. And so if Green Bay wants to win this game, they're going to need that offense to show up, and we haven't seen it this year.
And they don't have the receivers. Cincinnati at Cleveland. I'm going Cincinnati. Joey B. Come on, he's back. Joey B is back.
That kid. God damn, does he look good? They just have so many weapons for him too. And not for nothing, the offensive line has looked better the last few weeks.
Yeah.
I still, fantasy wise, he's a really good in real life running back. Joe Mixon is so frustrating if you own him anywhere. They put up like 40 points and he gets you like 5 PPR. And I'm like, dude, what do I get this guy? Like, is he just not involved? But yeah, I'm going with the Bengals. When do we start flexing, Jack? This is not a Monday night game. Get them the fuck out of it. Put them at 3 p.m. and give me a better game here for Monday.
It's going to be an ugly one, especially it's like Halloween or something like that too. So it's going to be a bad one. Bears at Dallas, Frank. I'm just going to be straight up. I'm going Bears. Come on. Come on. If we get this type of game again, this Dallas team, I know they've won some games. I didn't really see a whole lot of what Dak did in his return. I'm gonna look at his kind of what his return looked like. 207 yards, 1 touchdown. Didn't need to do a lot. The Lions aren't very good. I just don't. I think Zeke got hurt too. I could be wrong there. He came back in, but
he came back in.
He did? Okay. That being said, I just don't. Dallas just doesn't do anything for me. I'm going Bears. Fuck it. I'm going Bears. I want to see this offense not necessarily drop 33 points again. I'd love for that to happen. I just want to see how they carry over their best offensive week. Like, please don't go back to 10 points, 12 points. Like, get 20. 20 should be the benchmark. And I want to see how they get to 20. Are they, are they moving the pocket still? Are they doing things that work? I know they're not going to be able to do exactly what worked last week because, Micah Parsons is obviously extremely good, and you have to be careful of Diggs as well. But and DeMarcus Lawrence might have a field day against Larry Borum. But I still think I just want to see how this Bears offense responds to their best game of the season. What do they do next? So I'm very intrigued to see kind of what happens there. I'm going Bears. I feel good about it. Dallas it's Mike McCarthy, man. Like they're gonna fall off at some point. I think it happens this week.
Yeah, I think similar worries for me about the Dallas defense. I have that. Just like I did last week with New England. But I think it was more credit to Bill Belichick and not the way their defense actually looked this year. They're not an elite defense. This is the number one defense in the league to me, and it's not even close. The Cowboys are a really, really good defense. I as annoying as it's going to be, I think we are going to play a little bit more ball control offense. We're going to run the ball in situations where maybe we want to get a little bit more aggressive just to bleed some clock. I'm going Cowboys in a close one because Dak doesn't scare me. I think we have what it takes to limit him. But New England's backfield, while it's solid, like Ramondre Stevenson's okay, Damian Harris is okay. But just thinking about what Dalvin Cook and Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson, and even with the New York Giants with Daniel Jones and Saquon, what they did on the ground, like. We just sort of skipped a week of playing pretty good running backs. Pollard might be the best running back we've played since Dalvin Cook. I don't, or since Saquon, if you think Saquon's better than him, I don't know if we're going to be able, they still haven't proven to me that they can stop the run. I can forecast a game that's close, 17-16, 20-17, where Dallas just beats us on the ground. And, it's one of those sort of uglier games that we're just one play away again. Because I do think talent-wise, Dallas does have a better team than us. I think coaching staff-wise, we may be better than them, but it's also thinking of the progress that Kyler Gordon has made. He also hasn't had to guard anyone that's CeeDee Lamb in quite some time since Justin Jefferson. You know what I mean? He's still. I get he's making progress, and I'll take progress any way that I can get it. But this receiving core is much better than we faced the last couple of weeks. So it's I almost want to tamper the. It's less about outcome, but I'm with you up until the Bears win. I'm with you of let's keep this going. Let's keep this momentum going. Let's look really good on offense again. Let's see if Allen Williams can cook something up to continue to confuse Dak. I just don't know if we have the talent to beat Dallas.
Yeah, I mean Dallas has I think it's middle of the pack. I guess it is rush defense. So maybe that's how you beat them. Because, they lead the league in sacks with 29. The next closest is 24 with the 49ers. So Cowboys, obviously a very good pass rush, as we mentioned, with Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. So you're going to have to beat them on the ground. Something the Bears do really, really well. So could be a good matchup. And like I said, I think the Bears have had a lot of success going into Arlington just overall. So could be a fun one there. I'm going Bears. You're going Dallas. We'll see kind of what happens there. But Frankie, that'll do it for this week's edition of the Bear With Us podcast. We appreciate you guys listening as always. Hopefully we're coming back on Sunday talking about a Bears win. Frankie, I'll talk to you next week, man.
Absolutely. Later, Jackie. Later, everybody.